Hello, I'm Dustin with Kruger's Training Academy and Kruger Instruments. Today we're going to go through the ASSE, IAPMO, ANSI Series 5000 one hose test procedure for the ASSE 1015. It's pretty standard. If you're taking a class, this might be the one you're using. If it's not the test procedure you're using for your class, you might want to check out our other videos. We have the different testing procedures from the different textbooks. We're going to be utilizing a Kruger Instruments TK2. The procedure is kind of set up for a 5-valve kit, but if anything one hose, you only use the high bleed valve. So we're going to use the 2-valve kit. There shouldn't be any differences. Any jurisdiction or class will probably accept the 2-valve, even though it's sort of designed for the 5-valve. We're going to be testing the double check. Few major components, 4 test cocks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 shutoffs, 1 shutoff 2. The inlet shutoff is shutoff 1, and the test cocks go in order from start to finish of the valve. First step, it's not really listed here, I guess it's in the writing, but first step is always notify, identify, inspect, observe. Whatever course you're in, they're probably going to want you to say something along those lines. NIIO is a very popular one. They might have more elaborate things, but like, hey, I'm Dustin, I'm here to shut off your water for a period of time in order to test the backflow. Just make sure you do all those steps properly. The next step is install gauge adapters, and it says quote unquote if applicable. Some proctors, they will want you to be like I'm installing my gauge or my adapters. If you forget that step, they might have a problem with it. A lot of times they don't if they're very chill. I took the class with IAPMO in New Jersey, and they were pretty chill about it. Like, if it already has adapters, you don't have to say that you have adapters. Next, you're going to flush the test cocks. For the ASSE 5000 2022 version, they do want you to flow water through test cock 4, open and close 1, open and close 2, open and close 3, close 4. Generally, that's in order to make sure the relief valve doesn't drip on a RP, but they want you to do it for the double check as well, just keep it standard. It says close gauge valves and low pressure bleed. This is a 2-valve kit, so they say close gauge valves. They're talking about the ones at the bottom if you have a larger kit with the 5-valve. Since we have a 2-valve, you just kind of ignore that step, and then you close low bleed. Open high bleed. This is so you don't create water hammer when you're when you're pressurizing the test kit. So you want high bleed open. I wouldn't open it a lot because then you're gonna have to close it while water's flowing out of it. So I'll just open it a tiny bit. Attach gauge high hose to test cock 2. There are no bleed off valve arrangements or short clear tubes or anything required for the ASSE procedure, so you just attach it right on it. Open test cock 2. Again, there's going to be water coming out of your high bleed when you do that, so you don't want to make it super far open. Then it goes into the test. It says maintain the center of test kit at proper elevation. When you're taking the class and in the field, you actually want to do another step in between that. You want to grab your line pressure reading. So I'm reading 45 on that. So the line pressure is the one at the bottom. So we go ahead, if we're doing a test, grab our test report. Static line pressure, 45. Next, you're going to close shut off 2, then close shut off 1. You should not be shutting shut off 1 first. The way ASSE words it, it's actually, if shut off 2 is already closed, you leave it closed. Shut off 1 should be open, but if it's, I guess if it's not, you would want to open it. So shut off 2 may be open, may be closed. At the end, they say to restore it to pre-test condition. So on the sheets, it says shut 2, shut 1. We actually get our next reading now. It's not really on the sheet, but if you're taking the class, they'll probably go over it. If your line pressure doesn't drop, so it's still 45, then you can go ahead and mark shut off 2 as closed tight. So if you shut off 1 and it starts dropping, you know that there's an outlet shut off leak. Now you slowly open test cock 3. Make sure your gauge and the end of your high bleed and everything is parallel, like as far as head pressure, with the top of the test cock. So 3.2 is the differential pressure across the check valve. So you say close tight, 3.2. Also, you get your second reading. Basically, if water keeps running out of the test cock, that means you have an inlet shutoff leak. So now we can also conclude that the shutoff 1 is closed tight. If shutoff 1 is not closed tight, you'll see something similar to this. If you like simulate a leaky shutoff 1, you'll see you get a reading, but water just never stops coming out. That means you have a leaky shutoff 1. For ASSE standards, the 5000 2022, that actually means that the gauge or the valve fails. You do have to repair the shutoff in order to fully test the valve. They don't allow the bleed off T arrangements or through the high bleed arrangements. Go ahead and close test cocks 2 and 3. Remove. It says here, to do check valve 2, reestablish pressure to the assembly. There's 2 ways to do that. The 2015 one actually used to go through the different types of reestablishing. For us, we're just going to open shutoff 1. If you're in the field, you might want to do, they had like a loop arrangement thing. It was in the 2015. It looks like they've removed it. Now you attach your gauge high hose to test cock 3. Again, your high bleed should be open here, but it doesn't really say to open it. So here you would want to insert that step of open high bleed. Open test cock 3, close high bleed, close shut off 1. It does not have the jump arrangement like the 2015. So for 2022, they just want you to open and close it. Make it level again. They say when it says make your gauge level, you should make it level prior to closing shutoff 1. That's the point. You technically, hydraulically, could probably do it on the next step when you open test cock 4, but they want it level starting with shutoff 1 being closed. Now you open test cock 4, 2.8. The little tiny lines are 0.2, the bigger ones are 1.0. And then 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15 are listed. Looks like it settled a little more. 2.3, 4. Make sure it's good, like it's not settling. If you have a very small leak in the check valve, it'll go down very slowly. That's technically a leak. Here it does look like it's settled and holding at 2.2. If you gave it a couple minutes and it's at 2.0, you want to go ahead and say that it's leaking. So check valve 2, 2.2, closed tight. Since the line pressure, the shutoffs, and the check valves are good, the assembly test performance is a pass. Lastly, we want to break down, it says restore assembly to pre-test condition. That actually doesn't, it means like if shutoff 2 was closed when you got there, you leave it closed. If it wasn't, then you don't. Like if it wasn't closed before, you don't leave it closed, because then, you know, maybe the fire system doesn't work. But if it was closed when you got there, you don't want to open it up. You might flood the next room. You might see that on your test. I did actually, when I took the IAPMO class, see that on the test where they had one. They had like a PVB where it was already shut. And it felt like kind of like, you know, like a test to see if you knew that part of it. So anyway, that's the ASSE 5000 2022 version of the single hose double check preventer test. Definitely check out the rest of the channel. If you made it this far, please take some time to like and subscribe. Definitely helps us with the views and the subscribers. Again, check out, we have these online. There should be a link in the description for the Kruger Instruments TK2 test kits. And thank you for joining us, and good luck on your exam.